Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us around £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing around 14 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's the subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, a bus company unleashes their secret weapon to slam the brakes on one false claim.
You can expect there to be anything between 12 and 16 cameras, so remember to smile, you're on camera.
A holidaymaker's claim fails to take off.
Customers clearly seeing his travel insurance policy as an easy target to make money by deception.
And the IFED team hunt a suspected car insurance fraudster.
We've got a warrant from the court to enter and search the address for fraud.
Britain has been described as the whiplash capital of Europe. With almost 1,500 claims a day, it costs the industry nearly £2 billion a year. And fraudsters see this opportunity as a potential goldmine.
A typical whiplash claim pays around £2,500 in the UK.
Christian Worsfold is an expert in these types of injuries.
So whiplash injury describes the mechanism of the injury, so the movement of the head and neck, usually in a low-speed motor vehicle accident. The problem with whiplash injury is that all the symptoms are subjective in nature, so x-rays, scanning won't show any damage to the neck.
Claimants are acutely aware of this loophole.
I have patients regularly coming back to me who I'm treating saying that they weren't in the examination very long, it wasn't very in-depth. So it's very easy for a person to pretend that they have the injury.
So it's not surprising that for public transport companies, fake whiplash claims can be a real pain in the neck. One man who has plenty of experience dealing with whiplash claims is Lee Ingram.
On the 28th of February 2013, one of our buses was making a left-hand turn. They've misjudged the turning circle and they've squashed up against some railings at the side of the road.
It must have caused more damage to the railings than the bus. Keep your eye on the bottom right of the picture.
We were rather surprised sometime later to receive a claim from one of the passengers on the bus, bearing in mind that this was a rather innocuous sort of squeezing accident rather than a full-on impact.
As always, the ever-present whiplash claim was put forward.
We do see these sorts of claims presented quite often. People will claim they've received a whiplash injury from the most innocuous of incidents.
And this claimant didn't stop there.
We were a bit surprised later on, a further claim was submitted with the medical report for physio fees of £500 and a rather surprising care and assistance claim of over £2,000. These claims consist of 3 hours for general housework, 2 hours help with ironing, 6 hours help with laundry.
It's added up to 29 hours a week.
Care claims do tend to generally be inflated slightly, but 6 hours for laundry excluded ironing seems a little bit excessive. I think my nan could have done it quicker with a hand crank washing machine and a mangle.
Luckily for Lee, he has a powerful weapon in the fight against such bogus claims.
When you take into consideration the single-deck and double-decker buses that we're regularly running in service, you can expect there to be anything between 12 and 16 cameras covering the inside and the outside of the bus. So yeah, it's pretty good coverage. When she's gone to see her medical expert, she's actually told him that she's been thrown violently forwards and backwards. So when we watch the CCTV, this is what we're expecting to see.
As the bus knocks into the railings, the claimant is sitting in the bottom right-hand corner of the picture.
She doesn't move a muscle, she sits stock still throughout the whole thing.
As you can see, she doesn't even move.
I'm not a medical expert, but I'm pretty sure you cannot get a whiplash injury from sitting still. First group's response after reviewing the footage was to reject the claim in its entirety on the grounds that there was no movement or inconvenience to anyone on this bus really, other than some general swaying. Certainly nothing to suggest that there would be a whiplash injury or any sort of injury to any of the passengers. You would have thought that this would be the end of this particular claim once we'd sent the CCTV footage off to the solicitors, but they weren't prepared to give up without a fight, and they did want their day in court, so this case went to trial. Trial cases are inherently risky. A moderate-sized claim like this could attract costs of up to around £20,000.
Travel companies like First Group self-insure, and so court fees like this are not taken lightly.
We were extremely shocked to get a bill of costs in on this particular claim of £40,000. So that was a little bit of a worry, but we thought we've got good evidence, so there was no way we weren't going to run this one to trial, and we did.
So she was off to court, possibly by bus.
At the trial, the judges actually heard evidence from, amongst others, the claimant's mother, the claimant and her sister. The claimant's sister has said that she cannot lift her arms above her head. Her mother has said that she spends a lot of time in bed because her medication has made her drowsy. The judge just didn't believe that those levels of assistance were required, so he found issue with that. The biggest issue is probably the CCTV. We showed the footage back and the judge sees her just sitting there with no movement at all. What else is he going to say? Yeah, we're pleased with the result, and in the end the judge dismissed the entire claim.
Still to come, a claim that really pushes the envelope.
Everybody in my investigation team is a sort of chess player. Getting to the bottom of the case and solving it is what they're there to do.
And one policyholder makes a dog's dinner of their claim.
Something very extraordinary happened for us. We had a tip-off that the breeder and the owner were colluding to defraud us.
Holidays are normally a time to relax, but for a select few, these dreams can turn into a nightmare. A foreign country is the last place you want to suffer an injury or lose your personal belongings. Your holiday can't get off to a flying start if you've been separated from your suitcase. Unfortunately, this seemed to be the case for one traveller to the African country Cameroon.
We received a baggage claim for €7,000 for a bag that was lost by the airline.
That's around £5,570. The claimant in this story was particularly unlucky, as the items lost included some expensive designer clothing.
A lot of our customers claim for designer clothes such as Armani, Prada, Louis Vuitton. They don't seem to have clothing from George, Asda, F&F at Tesco's or any of the high street brands.
There's nothing wrong with taking pride in your appearance and splashing out on the odd luxury, but I hope this customer kept his receipts, because these labels are pricey.
We became suspicious about the claim due to the level of designer clothing that was being claimed and the lack of proof of purchase for the items.
But surely people wouldn't deliberately exaggerate the cost of belongings that have gone walkabout.
It's extremely convenient, and they never have any receipts or proof of ownership for the designer gear.
The insurance company could smell a rat. Simon and his team took on the case.
They only provided 2 suspect-looking receipts to support €7,000 worth of clothing.
Maybe the shopkeeper could help clear up the confusion.
Well, we made some internet searches and the shops couldn't be located. We also attempted to contact the telephone number on one of the receipts, and it was a dead line.
That could have been the end of the story. With all the genuine claims keeping Simon's team busy, would they have the time and resources to unravel events that took place in a whole other country?
Fraudsters may assume that as the incident occurs overseas that we cannot investigate their claim, when in fact it is just as easy to investigate an overseas claim as it is in the UK.
To Sega, the concept of an international operation is not a foreign one. They're highly skilled sleuths around the globe, regularly help Simon's team spy out the truth.
We proceeded to appoint one of our overseas network of investigators in Cameroon to do some on-the-ground inquiries. The on-the-ground investigator was unable to locate both of the shops in the areas shown on the receipts. Also went as far as checking the local phone directory, and neither shops could be located. They also checked with locals as well, and none of the local people in the area had ever heard of the shops. At that point, we're thinking this is a fraudulent claim. Shops do not exist.
But this international mystery became even murkier when the team looked into the customer's previous payouts.
But whilst looking at the baggage claim, our Special Investigations Unit also noted that the customer had made a medical claim, which looked suspicious. The costs were particularly high and disproportionate to the treatment he would have received.
Yes, $1,200 does seem a lot for the treatment of everyday symptoms such as fever, stomach pains, colic and a headache.
Our on-the-ground investigator spoke with the medical director at the clinic, which was a genuine clinic, and he found that the documentation we've been provided with for the medical claim didn't in fact originate from the clinic, and it was false.
They had him by the globes. It was clear he had grossly exaggerated his claim and was playing a brazen game of catch me if you can.
Well, the customer's clearly seeing his travel insurance policy as an easy target to make money by deception.
But he was about to have his wings clipped.
We firmly rejected the claim and wrote to the customer invoking the fraud condition. For the medical claim, which we had in fact paid, he was ordered to pay the money back, and he agreed to repay us back in instalments.
But the repercussions didn't end there. Any future applications for insurance would be grounded.
After we formally rejected the claim, we also issued an industry-wide fraud alert to warn other insurers of the subject.
This meant he will be blacklisted. Another claimant had been sent packing. A message to anyone who thinks that travel insurance is their ticket to a new wardrobe. In January 2012, the City of London Police joined the fight against insurance fraud by forming an elite squad known as IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
The message I'd give to people that are considering embarking on insurance fraud is just don't do it. My team, day by day, are getting more sophisticated in tracking down the people that want to try out this type of crime. So really, if you want to go into insurance fraud, I would say don't do it.
They've made over 550 arrests and have saved millions of pounds in fraudulent insurance claims, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets. From now on, fraudsters need to watch their backs.
My team work tirelessly 24/7, so we know exactly what types of scams you're going to embark on, and we will come after you.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
DI Dominic Parkin and DC Jamie Kirk had an early start this morning. It's 6:45, and they're on their way to raid the house of a suspected crash for cash criminal.
As always, when we go out on these searches and warrants, we do as many checks and inquiries as we can. We never know all the risks that are involved, and so when we knock on that door, there is obviously an element of the unknown.
Today's raid is the result of months of hard work and preparation.
So this investigation has been going on for a number of months. The insurance industry, they spotted that the circumstances were suspicious, and they've referred the case to us to investigate further.
This type of fraud can be big money for insurance fraudsters. But IFED hope to intercept the alleged group before they receive any payouts.
This fraud is commonly runs into the tens of thousands of pounds. No money's being paid out as yet by the insurance company, but the attempt to obtain the money is into the tens of thousands of pounds.
Today, Dom and the team are treading carefully. The element of surprise is an essential tool in the fight against insurance fraud. They got up at the crack of dawn for this wake-up call and hope their suspect is in.
You just go back there and just watch that upstairs window. Hello there, I'm a police officer. There's my warrant card. We've got a warrant from the court to enter and search the address for fraud. Okay. Okay, so he's gone out to work this morning already? Okay. If you just go in the lounge, I'll tell you what's happening.
Despite their early morning arrival, their suspect has already left for work.
Got a warrant here from the court which has authorised us to search the address for conspiracy to defraud and money laundering. And it's all to do with fake insurance claims on motor accidents. Okay, so that's why we're here. And I need you to ring and get to come back here. All right, because he needs to be spoken to. In terms of the man we were after, he wasn't at home. We missed him by 45 minutes. He'd left for work at 6 o'clock and we turned up there at 7:15. That happens sometimes. I should have come earlier. We should have got up at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock.
The suspect is called. Even though he's not there, IFED can still go ahead with their search of the property.
There's so much police here and they're talking to you about insurance fraud and stuff and they want to search the property and everything.
Let me speak to him.
Oh, here. Did you want to speak to them quickly? My phone's going to die soon.
Okay. Hi, my name's Dominic Parkin. I'm a police officer from the City of London Police. We're here at your address with a search warrant issued by the Magistrates Court to search the address for items in connection with insurance fraud. So what time will be back? Okay, and we'll give you a call later and we'll arrange a time for you to come to the station. Okay, all right. Cheers now, bye. Yeah.
The suspect will be questioned later. But for now, Dom and his team must painstakingly search the house for any evidence relating to the alleged fraud. This means waking up everyone in the property.
So we've got to search the house, and I'll let you explain to the kids and wake them in a way that...
Oh, really? God. Do you have to go in all the rooms?
Potentially, but you know, for us to search the house, it could take some time. So it's not like we're going to have a quick,
Oh, I see.
you know, quick look around and we'll be gone before they wake up.
To save time, IFED always asks for help in locating any potential evidence.
If you could let us know where he does keep his stuff, it might be quicker.
Well, I've got a briefcase.
The woman is being cooperative and has said all paperwork is kept in a briefcase. The team start here, but will also need to check the other rooms. IFED leave no cupboard unopened, as evidence can be stored in the strangest of places.
Okay, we're not going to take this. We're not going to take these banking documents, but we're just going to make a note of the account numbers. So our financial investigator just has a look at the accounts to see what's if there's any link with the investigation.
Even old computers and laptops are seized, as they could contain vital evidence in the case. Everything is bagged up and labelled, ready to be taken away and examined by IFED's investigators. With the search complete, the items seized are taken back to the station for further analysis. But the most important thing now for IFED is that their suspect shows up at the station.
Great, so we'll be in contact with him today and we'll make an arrangement for him to come and see us so he can just answer the questions that we've got.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good.
The team have uncovered lots of useful documentation, but are still waiting to speak to their suspect.
So we've finished the search of our address. We've seized a number of items, those being some insurance documents and also some financial documents. We've also taken the computer tower from the address, so we'll be analysing that at a later date. In terms of the man we were after, he wasn't at home, but we've made contact with him by phone and he's agreed to come into the station later this afternoon for an interview. So all in all, a good day's work.
As the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Thanks to a boom in online auction sites, you can easily buy anything from antiques to flat-screen TVs without leaving the house. But it can be nerve-wracking to hand over your hard-earned cash, trusting that a faceless seller will honour your bid and send you your item. Luckily, online sites and distributors like Royal Mail have insurance and refund policies to put bidders and sellers' minds at ease. Even if you don't pay for recorded delivery, Royal Mail will still refund you up to £20 for a lost package. But there are those who abuse this goodwill, just like our next claimant, who was such a prevalent fraudster that she ended up in court.
In this case, we'd had a customer who'd made several claims for items that she'd posted. These were all sorts of items, all sorts of small consumer durables, jewellery and things like that, mainly the kind of things that you can buy from auction sites.
One parcel going missing is annoying, but several losing their way is a real headache.
We were already suspicious about this particular customer because of the number of claims that she'd been making.
It was starting to add up to more than just bad luck.
We'd eventually concluded that she'd had so many items that she'd sent go missing, we thought this was questionable, and we were instructed to pay one final large claim by the Postal Review Panel, and at that point we thought we'd hear no more from this customer.
For Royal Mail, the sorting of parcels and packages never stops. Surely it will be easy for a fraudster to get lost in such a big system.
Well, not long after we'd ceased to hear from this customer, we realised that we were seeing a lot of claims coming through from other organisations and from other customers, all of whom had posted items to her and all of which were claimed not to have been received.
The claimant had switched from selling items to buying them. This time she was sending complaints to various sellers that her purchases had not turned up. But Tony suspected she had received the packages and lied to get a refund.
At that point, we decided we would undertake an investigation. And this is a very particular type of investigation. It involves looking at somebody's personal mail, so it requires a very high level of authorisation.
They needed to bring on board one of their trusted colleagues, someone with local knowledge, close to the target, and well positioned to do the legwork.
We asked the delivery office manager to record details of all the parcels and packets that were delivered to this lady. What we thought we might see, if our customer was in fact dishonest, was that she was denying receipt of parcels and packets that we knew we'd delivered to her.
Over a 4-month period, her scam was revealed.
We found that we had 33 items that were claimed to have been sent to this address that we knew had been delivered and that were allegedly not received.
Royal Mail have never lost 33 parcels to the same address.
There is no customer that I have ever come across who is unlucky enough to lose 33 items of mail like that. It's got to be a fraud or a scam of some sort. We just don't lose that level of mail.
For months, she was trying to claim from both her sellers and Royal Mail. Tony referred the case to the police.
Eventually, this lady was prosecuted by the Crown Prosecution Service on behalf of Royal Mail and this other company. She received a 3-month prison sentence, suspended for 18 months.
Tony and his team had stamped out this nonsense.
It's incredibly satisfying to get to the bottom of a case like this. Everybody in my investigation team is a sort of chess player. They're playing a game of strategy against the criminals. They enjoy doing it, and getting to the bottom of the case and solving it is what they're there to do.
For Brits, man's best friend has always been his trusty pet dog. And it doesn't get more British than the English bulldog. Long associated with Winston Churchill, the bulldog is a symbol of strength and honour. One person who knows all about bulldogs and other furry friends is pet insurer Simon Wheeler from Argreer Pet Insurance.
I've been in the pet insurance industry for a long time, and there are always some strange and amusing and bizarre claims. There's the owner who has its car keys removed from the dog's tummy. There's a cat that has a yard of tinsel removed from its bottom.
What a catastrophe. Simon recently came across one shaggy dog story that really gave him pause for thought.
We received a claim for a missing bulldog puppy. The puppy was called Lola, and her owners had insured her with us and were claiming £2,000 for the purchase price because she'd gone missing.
Although extremely pricey, they're not the most athletic breed. They'd rather sleep on your lap than play catch in the yard. In fact, their loyal nature means they tend to stay pretty close to home.
With a young puppy, it was unlikely that it would have strayed far, so we suspected it had been stolen.
It's not uncommon for expensive breeds to get snatched. So on the surface, this case looks straightforward. However, there was a twist in this tale.
Something very extraordinary happened for us. We had a tip-off, an anonymous tip-off, that the breeder and the owner were colluding to defraud us of the £2,000 purchase price.
But further still, Simon's informant believed the claimant was crying wolf.
The person who was suggesting that there was fraud occurring went on to say that the policyholder had no interest in dogs, didn't like dogs, wouldn't tolerate a dog in the house.
Simon Wheeler, ace insurer, pet detective, delved into the case.
Because of the tip-off, you never know whether there's some animosity, whether there's something else in the background and somebody is stirring up trouble, or whether actually there is some fraud occurring. You know, we had to investigate it. So we approached the breeder and we approached the policyholder and just started the normal set of investigations.
Once Simon took on the case, the leads started raining like cats and dogs.
When we're investigating a claim of this type, we'll look at some of the supporting documentation, so the claim form that's submitted and the receipt that the new owner has been given for the puppy. In this instance, although the policyholder and the breeder live 200 miles apart, the handwriting for both was very, very similar. We also check that whether the breeder and the new owner knew each other, both adamant that they'd never met before the purchase of the dog.
Today's insurers regularly sniff around social media networks as a tool to catch people bragging about their furry friends or lack thereof.
When we investigated on Facebook was that they were father and daughter. So the breeder was the daughter, her and her partner had sold the puppy to the father, and very evidently they were part of the same family.
Simon got on the dog and bone to the policyholder and the breeder, whose days were about to get rough.
When we questioned the policyholder and the breeder, there are some inconsistencies between their stories. Certainly the policyholder was very, very edgy, very evasive, and we felt they were withholding information. We questioned the breeder as well, and again, they weren't relaxed. They were edgy, and their stories just didn't tie up.
The breeder had put their foot in it.
At this stage, we just suspected that the daughter had a puppy and it had been sold, and then they thought they'd have another £2,000 from the insurance company by having a member of the family insure that puppy and then claim it had gone missing, probably sharing the proceeds.
The insurance company, now armed with enough evidence, refused the claim. But that wasn't the end for this dodgy claimant, who turned out to be someone who should have known better.
One of the breeders was a serving policeman. We referred the claim to IFED, who in turn referred it to the local police authority, and it became an internal police investigation.
The claimer was in the doghouse. He had bitten off more than he could chew.
The policeman was invited to a disciplinary hearing for gross misconduct. Before the hearing, the policeman resigned.
They had finally collared him, and Simon had saved the day.
Hey, but that's all in a day's work for a pet insurer.